Meadows. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Katzie and Kwantlen First Nation. We are strictly a non-partisan organization, so this will be a non-partisan all-candidates meeting, not a debate. As we go through the questions, we want everyone on the panel to have the opportunity to speak uninterrupted. So if you have any questions or concerns, please contact the candidates directly after this meeting. We have asked the community to pre-submit questions, so at this time there will be no questions from the audience. We have placed our candidates at random and will be moving down the table with questions. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to give an introduction and closing statement, and will have 1 minute 30 seconds to answer each question. My colleague Dara here has a timer. You'll be able to see it right here. This will restart after each candidate. You will get a yellow warning flag at 30 seconds and a red flag when your time is up for the ones down there that can't see the clock. So when do we get started here?
It's so they know who we're
And this will be recorded. It is on Facebook Live, and we'll be able to watch it afterwards as well. Thank you so much, candidates, for joining us this evening. So we're going to start at the very far end of the table. And the first question, and this question will be asked along the table, so we'll start with you. You're good? Yeah? Oh, and sorry, of course, opening statements. Go ahead.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Elke, and I just wanted to acknowledge that we are meeting tonight on the traditional territory of the Katzie First Nation people. I've lived in Pitt Meadows for 22 years now, and I love the fact that I can run on the dikes or be in the water kayaking within 10 minutes after leaving my house. I raised my son here, and after completing his aviation program at YPK, he has left the nest. I currently work in the BC healthcare system, and I've been on council for the past 14 years. I sit on a number of committees on council, including the Regional Metro Parks Committee, Parks and Rec Advisory, Pitt Meadows Day, the joint collaborative committees with our local healthcare providers, and this will be my 5th election. And it's interesting when it's election time, it's kind of like applying for your job every 4 years. And I often get the question, why should I vote for you? And that question causes me to reflect on the work that we've done as a team the past 4 years. And we've accomplished quite a lot and had a lot of fun. So during that time together, we've advocated for road and rail improvements. We've got a new Pitt Meadows RCMP Detachment and our own model coming. We've added more firefighters, and we've got a new fire hall. And I'm getting a yellow card, that sounds bad. And we've just completed our OCP, and this is all during a worldwide pandemic and lots of heat and cold emergencies. So I'm running again to follow through on the work that's been started and bring community leadership experience and continuity to council. I bring a respectful approach, and I'm committed to listening and working for all residents in the community. Thank you.
Do I turn it on the bottom? Okay. Oh, hello. Hi, my name is Allison Evans, and I'm a mom, wife, volunteer. I'm a business owner in the community, and I'm running for Pitt Meadows City Council. I've lived here for 14 years with my husband, Chad. We're raising our 2 children and our 2 Boston Terriers. I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. I have a certificate in public relations. I've completed multiple courses in emergency management through the Justice Institute of British Columbia, and I've completed the University of Alberta Indigenous Canada course. So for the past 15 years, I've worked in 3 different RCMP detachments in the Lower Mainland and spent most of my time as a 911 operator and dispatcher. I also volunteer right here in Pitt Meadows. I'm a volleyball coach. I coach the senior boys volleyball team at Pitt Meadows Secondary, and I'm also on 2 advisory committees to the city. I'm on the Active Transportation Advisory Committee and the sorry, nerves. I'm on the Active Transportation Advisory Committee and the Economic Development Committee. Sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm running because I want to make Pitt Meadows safer, I want to help develop our economic growth, and I want to keep that community feel that we've really fostered. I want to work together with the councillors, with our mayor, and with you, the residents. I want to be here and answer your questions and work together to get things running. And I think we've done a great job in the last 4 years. We have a wonderful council, and I think I can be a really good part of the next council and that team. Thank you.
Check.
Where is it? Bottom. Right here?
Oh, yeah, you turn on the bottom first.
Test. There we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this evening. I actually have notes here. There's too much going on in my life. To begin, I wish to thank the Ridge Meadows Chamber of Commerce for hosting this important all candidates meeting here in Pitt Meadows, and to all of you for attending. My name is Mike Hayes, and as your councillor, I will continue to be your voice for our community. For those of you who don't know me, I purchased my first home in Pitt Meadows over 45 years ago, and there is nowhere else I would rather live than in Pitt Meadows. While still attending high school, I began working part-time at Pitt Meadows Airport at the age of 16. I later went on to owning my own construction development company here in Pitt Meadows. But later, during a market slowdown, and with the support of my children, I decided to go back to school and study computer science. My kids thought that would be really cool. I was eventually hired as a business intelligence software analyst, eventually working for the second largest global business software company. I recently retired from a large Crown corporation where I worked as an operations supervisor. During this career change, I was able to utilize some of my extensive software experience. I've sat on council for the past 4 years, and we have accomplished a lot, but we have much, much more to do. I've sat on many committees and was elected as second vice chair to the Fraser Valley Regional Library Board. Over the past 30 years, I have been an active volunteer in many of our city's activities, some of which include 12 years as past president for the Pitt Meadows Community Foundation, co-chair for Canada Day, as well as our city's 100th centennial celebration, and Pitt Meadows Day, and co-founder of Christmas in Pitt Meadows, plus many other events and committees. I'm honored to have received the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Award for many years of dedicated community service. I strongly believe in the strength, and that's my time, and pride of our community, and I will be working for you, our community, our future of Pitt Meadows. Thank you. I'm Mike Hayes.
Test. I have notes too, Mike. Good evening, how are you doing? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brad Perry. I have called Pitt Meadows home for the past 33 years. I moved here in 1988 with my family. Shortly after moving here, I joined the Pitt Meadows Volunteer Fire Department in 1990 and rose through the ranks while working full-time for BC Transit. In November of 2005, I was lucky enough to be hired by the Pitt Meadows Fire Rescue Service as the Assistant Fire Chief of Fire Prevention. I was responsible for inspections, fire investigations, and all the public safety and education programs that were delivered throughout the community, as well as responding to fires and emergencies. At that time, I also held the position of Emergency Program Coordinator for the city, reporting to the CAO and managing the City of Pitt Meadows Emergency Program for several years. I was promoted to Deputy Fire Chief of Prevention and Operations in 2018 and held that position until I retired from the fire department on December 31st, 2021. I've always had an interest in running for a city council, but as a city employee was unable to run for a seat. Now that I'm retired, and with encouragement from friends and family, I've decided to take that step. In my capacity of Deputy Fire Chief, I was very accustomed to working with council, preparing presentations, department budget statements, and various operational reports. I have a very good understanding of the issues that the current council is dealing with. I see lots of tough decisions coming before this city. Public safety, economic development, and transportation issues all affect us all on a daily basis. I feel I have the knowledge and experience to help Pitt Meadows thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So the good news is I actually planned for 1.5 minutes, and for those who know me, that's a good thing. Anyway, so we'll start. Good evening, friends, neighbors, and welcome to South Barnstable. This is a place I call home. Many of you know me, but my name is Bob Meacham. Getting a bit of feedback, I think, but many of you know me, but just in case, here's a little bit about me. I'm married. I have 3 adult children, 2 grandchildren, and I am an avid musician. One of the best decisions of my life was emigrating to Canada with my family in 1988. It gives me a perspective on what makes a great community and what it's like to move to another country where you have to start all over again. We became proud Canadian citizens in 1992, and my kids have prospered and enjoyed wonderful lives here in Canada. When I retired from a 40-year corporate career in 2018, I got involved in community volunteerism and local government because I believe that building a great community is something worth fighting for and working for. After many years, 1.5 minutes this is, engagement attending council meetings most Tuesdays and participating on many city committees, I was elected to City Council in 2018. My colleagues already told you all the wonderful things we've accomplished in the last 4 years. And there's lots more in the pipe that we want to carry on with for the next 4 years. I serve on 11 external boards, committees, and so forth as either liaison or first contact. And so it's been my great pleasure and privilege to be a councillor, and I hope to repeat the event again for the next 4 years. Thanks for your time and thanks for listening. Under the wire.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Jag Parmar. I was born and raised in a farming family, so I grew up around blueberries my entire life. The first vehicle I learned how to drive was a tractor at 3 years old. I've been a real estate professional and a wealth management consultant for over 6 years now. Now, the reason why I wanted to step up for City Council is because I feel there is a huge need for youth representation as well as minorities. I think it's also time that we stop electing politicians who constantly speak of integrity, honesty, and passion, and once elected, become hypocritical to what they once stood for. I believe transparency and trust is not attainable under current council. The reason I say that is the mantra in 2018 was to be heard, and the amount of residents I've spoken to have said that they felt neglected. Current council has formed a slate unofficially, but claim they are all independent. There have been 6 specific candidates constantly being pushed on the residents of Pitt Meadows, and it makes me wonder why. Several events and coffee meetings took place with these selected individuals while excluding other candidates, none of which shows transparency, integrity, or trust. It's time we elect individuals where there is no bias and those who not only preach these principles, but also follow them.
Good evening. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this all-candidates event, the only one in Pitt Meadows before the election. I also want to thank the citizens that have taken the time to take time out of their busy schedules and come in a beautiful evening they could be spending at home. For those that don't know me, I am Janice Alkerton. I served 7 terms on council, 21 years, and this will be my 8th time running. I've been in politics, though, for over 30 years, because even when I was off, I got phone calls, emails, asked how things proceed, just so they knew everything was following along the way it should. I have been encouraged to run again by constituents that feel their priorities and voices are not heard at this council table, and they are not addressing their concerns. I will be a strong, independent voice to debate all the issues. Pitt Meadows needs a diversity of opinions to be discussed at the council table to achieve the best solution for the majority of our residents. My background is in nursing and community development. I also served as Pitt Meadows community health nurse for many years. I was elected by my colleagues as president of the LMNA chair of the Lower Mainland Municipal Association Regional Crime and Prevention Strategy, chair of Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia, and co-chair of the UBCM MII Task Force on Civil Liability. These organizations provided the opportunity to work with other levels of government and the private sector, and it's essential for us getting the best results. There is only one taxpayer, and that is us. We pay to all levels in government. So vote for Janice Elkerton, and I will work diligently on your behalf, as I always have.
Hi everyone, I'm Bryce Cassidy, and you might be wondering, who's that? Most of you will not have seen any signs that I've put up because I chose not to. My wife and I are very environmentally friendly, or at least try to be. We have one electric car. I sold my gas guzzling vehicle last year. So I made the active choice not to put up any plastic signs this year. I'm hoping that tonight is my opportunity to get my voice heard by you all, as well as hopefully the newspaper spread this weekend before the election. A little about me. I am recently moved to Pitt Meadows at the start of the pandemic, as stressful as that was. My wife and I chose Pitt Meadows as a place to grow and raise our two young daughters. I've got a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old right now, both of whom go to daycare now in Pitt Meadows, thankfully. The past few days, some of you might have seen me biking along Harris Road or Airport Way, dropping my girls off with this election sign they helped create for me. For work, I work for the City of Vancouver in the Development Review Branch as a project coordinator, so I deal with primarily social housing projects, but also a little bit of everything. Working in Vancouver, and probably the most convoluted zoning and development bylaw imaginable, I have a lot of experience delving through civic policies, and I also have a lot of strategies that I think I can implement in Pitt Meadows. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. Good evening. I would like to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Katzie Nation. My name is Mike Manion, and I have lived in Pitt Meadows since 2007 with my lovely wife, Eileen, and our furry companions. I'm an active member in the Pitt Meadows Agriculture Advisory, and I'm also the chair of Metro Vancouver Agriculture Advisory. I have been involved in several community-related events, including Pitt Meadows Day, and also I have past chair of Maple Ridge, the Fraser Therapeutic Riding Association. I believe that my background in agriculture, small business, and executive positions in large corporations prepared me to be your voice as a councillor in Pitt Meadows. Because 78% of Pitt Meadows is agricultural land and needs a voice at the council table. As well as 86% of Pitt Meadows is within the floodplain. And the floods last year brought a renewed focus on the necessity for constant improvements to the infrastructure. I am university educated, have hands-on experience in dairy, berries, and mushroom farming, and have held executive positions in large corporations. These experiences have provided me with a unique skill set. As vice president of one of the largest farming operations in Canada, I managed a budget of $75 million, which is almost twice the budget of Pitt Meadows. I'm the owner of a small business that consults on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture and Investment Agriculture, and so therefore I know how to work with government agencies. And I also work with agri-tech companies developing technology. I look forward to working with Nicole. Thanks.
Thanks. Well, hello everyone. Been around the block a few times, so I'm sure. My name is Gwen O'Connell. I've been on council for the past 22 years. I've been a resident of Pitt Meadows for 46 years. And I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but when the passion comes out, unlike if people who follow our council know that we do fight, we do disagree on topics, but when we leave the council chambers, we respect each other, and that's the most important part that you can bring to this community. I know there's a lot going on right now. COVID has completely taken the whole world and shook us up, but we need to think of the safety in the community. CPR has caused a huge, huge problem in our city, and they're not going away tomorrow. They're just not. So we need to make sure and continue the negotiations we're doing to get the mitigation in the place it should be. I think we've got a great council, and there's always room for improvement with anyone. At the end of the day, we all love Pitt Meadows. We have a great staff, and I'm happy to say that I'm running again for Pitt Meadows. Big G, little go. Let's go for Gwen O'Connell. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, candidates, for that. All right, so we're going to get into the first question here. We're going to start here at this end. Gwen, you'll be taking the first question.
Okay.
Look at you.
Look at me.
And we'll work our way back down, and then we'll start at the end and come back again. All right, here we go. So first question. What do you think is the greatest need right now for businesses in Pitt Meadows? And what would you do to help provide that need?
What I'm hearing from the businesses in Pitt Meadows is the greatest need is workers. For some reason, and this is a province-wide situation, people just aren't applying for the jobs. But unfortunately, we have this huge industrial park that's taken over our area of farmland, and they need people to work for them. But the employees don't have a way to get there. The bus service is not good to get to these buildings. So we need to work with TransLink and other agencies to get something so we can get these workers a job or working for people. I also think that we're doing a pretty good job at getting the tax levels so that the businesses aren't paying so much more than residential now. We're getting to a pretty close area. Unfortunately, when this business park went in, the community was promised all these thousands and thousands of tax dollars were going to come from it. But guess what? It didn't happen because they're zoned differently, so we need to work with provincial government so that CPR and different businesses, industrial businesses, are paying their fair share. A hairdresser should not pay the same as what people on CPR lands are paying. Thank you.
I'm more than happy to repeat the question as we go down. So.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, that's the very same thing that I heard as I was traveling around and talking to businesses. Interestingly, when I asked businesses what was most on their mind, they would usually alternate between labor, the lack of labor, and also the supply chain interruptions that have caused them so much trouble over the last few years. But one of the things that they did not mention was taxes, which somewhat surprised me because you would think that would be first on their list. So the previous council has done a good job of keeping businesses satisfied in that regard. One of the other things that we would like to talk about is how do we help businesses get labor? And the first answer will be get the damn underpass built, because employees are having such a hard time getting to work. And the issue is that there's so many jobs out there that they may just go to some other community rather than work for our guys here. And the other thing, as Gwen said, we need busing, taking them to the business park.
So I believe the strongest need for businesses in Pitt Meadows is more space. We've had, especially in the neighborhood here, we've had an explosion of new housing, but no new retail, no new servicing, no amenities for the people who live here. They've got to go up to the north end of our downtown area. So I think we need to encourage more mixed-use development, separating the residential areas here and the business parks so that we can get more retail, more services in here.
Hi, I see increase in business space available. Businesses have been leaving. Part of that is due to taxation. Our taxation at the residential level has increased 20%. For businesses, that's 3 times the mill rate, and that's 60%. That's been a huge hit for them, and some people have closed up, and part of it is due to the lack of workers getting there and being paid well. So I see a reduction in both residential and commercial taxes will help draw businesses back into Pitt Meadows. And also that there is someone working with the provincial government to ensure that CP Rail paid the promised rate. When they were in 1993, when I got in, they were paying $500,000 to Pitt Meadows. That was under utility rates. Then there was Bill 55 that came in, and that allowed them to be put under a different taxation. And we had it reduced by over 60%. So the provincial government needs to work with us to see the impacts on our community and make sure that CP pays a fair price, which they're not.
So there are several needs that businesses are struggling with. Jobs are going unanswered, lack of funds for day-to-day operations, employment retention, maintaining payroll, and finding proper location. What we can do to help is deploy capital and help these organizations recover on solid footing. So a couple examples of that would be tax credit programs, emergency capital investments, paycheck protection programs, promote them on our city web pages, endorse brand ambassadors, set affordable rates, increase speed of licensing and bylaws, increase locations for diverse businesses, and also help with startup campaigns when a new business comes in town. Another thing we can also do, as Janice mentioned as well, is increased TransLink as well too.
Jack. I was going to say almost similar things to the first speakers, so I've jotted a few notes just to maybe change up a little bit, but yeah, definitely transportation corridors in and out of the city are causing problems. Council recently attended the opening of the new terminal at the Vancouver airport, and a week before that we were at the opening of a brand new business in the city of Pitt Meadows at the airport, Vancouver Aviation College. And maybe some of you saw the wonderful photos of us sitting in the flight simulators over there. And you know what the message was from those new owners of those businesses? We can't find employees locally. The big businesses are mopping up the available talent in the area. And Vancouver Aviation College in particular said, our people have got a problem even getting to the airport. So this council's worked diligently over the last 4 years with the ministries at a provincial level, looking for greater funding for infrastructure. I can assure you of that. And by the way, when it comes to taxation, the first year of the previous council was a 0 tax increase. Most of you will remember that. This council has been living with that legacy for the last 4 years because we had to play catch up with our reserve funding. And I'm proud that we've done that. And I think I'll leave it at that. I think we've all answered the same. Right? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Before I retired, my previous job as Deputy Chief Fire Prevention Operations, one of my primary jobs was occupancy inspections. So I was out in the community talking to businesses constantly. And I heard lots of similar things that other candidates have said tonight, but the one I jotted down, which resonated with me, that we need to, what I've heard is we do not have enough retail locations in the city. Businesses that are requiring to grow, there's nothing out there for them that's slightly bigger, or because it costs twice as much. And they say that's a factor in them leaving our community, is because they can go somewhere else, get a bigger location, and pay the same amount of money, or sometimes even less. I know we don't control costs, but that's something we need to consider moving forward if we had more inventory of business spaces. As a city, we need to ensure we're providing adequate spaces. We also need to be a resource for businesses on our website and walk them through the process of coming to Pitt Meadows and what steps they need to follow. We need to use tourism and attract businesses here to keep the ones we have from leaving and encourage more to move here. This will provide shopping opportunities, and I know, like you, I hate leaving my community to go find something I need, but a lot of times I have to. So yes, more spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question as well. My answer is actually very similar to everything that's already been said. But I believe the greatest needs for our customers, our businesses, is also on top of transportation, and location is what I'm hearing from many of them, but also communication, supporting our businesses locally. One of the challenges for businesses coming out of this pandemic was the fact that employees were hard to find. There wasn't enough support from outside customers coming into the businesses. One of the great things our council has done is reestablish the Economic Development Advisory Committee for our business here in Pitt Meadows. I think going forward this will help lend an ear to those businesses, help provide support for them, and hopefully help them grow and be successful. And also look towards opening additional space for them so we can attract new business to our community. So, thank you.
As a member of the Economic Development Advisory Committee to the city, something that was stressed was tourism and tourism exposure of our beautiful city. Last night at council, the interim report of the economic development strategies was presented, and the main point was tourism exposure. We need to bring people to our city. They need to walk, cycle, be in our city, explore our stores. When they come, they will spend money, and it will help support the current businesses, and it will encourage new startups. We have an airport to bring people here. It's an untapped resource so far. Tourism can be marketed in so many ways that are low cost to the city, mostly via social media. And our amazing communication staff at the city already has a great handle on that. And I think that we could show them our scenery, show them our city, and they'll come here. And we will offer so much to visitors, and those visitors will help our businesses grow and develop.
Thank you, Allison. I just want to highlight the survey that was presented to council last night, where we asked residents and businesses what their concerns were. And the number one concern that was brought forward was the lack of space for retail and office. We have a lot of warehouse space, as you can see, but not a lot for somebody wanting to open up a smaller business. So that was highlighted. And the second thing that I noted last night too was that there was a mention of lack of support from local government. So we can do better. We did have an economic development committee going for many years, and that was shut down by the previous council. So we are bringing that back, and we're going to see we have a strategy that came forward. I think in the next year you're going to see a lot of new initiatives, more support. I know we can do better to support our businesses and attract them here. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to start at the again. So the next question I have here is, we have seen devastating floods and fires that have impacted so many people and businesses. How do you plan to implement extreme weather readiness?
I feel like I'm having a heat emergency in here tonight. How about you? I did turn the fans on earlier, so hopefully it gets cooler quickly. Yeah, we're definitely seeing the effects of climate change and seeing a lot more heat and cold emergencies, floods, fires. We definitely need to work together as a community. We have an emergency program in place, and we do work with our other municipalities. We need to work with our farmers as well, and we're having those conversations about flooding and our response. And we do open up our facilities whenever there's a weather-related emergency. So in the summertime, you've probably seen those ads, come on into the family rec center and keep cool. We do that in the winter as well and provide some snacks and activities. And I really love how our community comes together to support each other during those times. And we saw that during COVID too. We started a community task force. So I really love the spirit here. And I know we do have a few volunteers in the audience tonight that are part of the emergency program. So I want to thank you for what you do. And if you are more interested in this topic, there's opportunities to get involved too. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So climate emergencies are happening much more frequently. We need to expect they will continue to happen more frequently, and we need to plan in advance emergency preparedness. We need to build on the knowledge of the previous heat domes, cold snaps, snowstorms, and atmospheric rivers. We need to be proactive as opposed to reactive. I think we need to consult and advocate for emergency social services and our emergency preparedness programs and volunteers. We have to hear what they're telling us. We have to get them trained, and we have to make sure they're fully equipped for handling the extreme weather emergencies. And they can support our community, and we can support them.
Thank you. A plan has and is currently ongoing, actually. We are one of the few communities which host our own emergency operations center, which will be located above our new fire hall. Throughout the year, there are many information centers, training sessions to help prepare us for an emergency should one occur in our community. This is something that many of our volunteers are involved with. I thank you for your service and ongoing. Pitt Meadows is not, what am I looking for? We're aware of the emergencies, the concerns with all our dikes and the flooding and things going on, but we have seen such an increase over the last few years with atmospheric flooding, with heat domes and stuff, and we have sorry, I've lost words. We have heed the call and continue to work for it. Thank you.
Thank you. As a former emergency program coordinator, it's extremely important for City Council to support the city's emergency program. Council needs to provide policies and support the emergency plan initiatives like warming centers in extreme cold and cooling centers in extreme heat. We also need to provide the support so the emergency program can create emergency plans to be prepared in advance for our extreme weather events that seem to be happening more often these days. Thank you.
Thank you, and I try not to repeat what's already been said, but there were two major events that we all remember vividly. Atmospheric river that came in and almost flooded the entire lower mainland. Never been seen since probably 1948, I think it was, where it was the last major flood. Look at the damage that it did. Could that have been avoided? Could that risk been moderated by taking care of business before it happened? Maybe. And of course, we've lived through a heat dome. And unfortunately, that heat dome resulted in the deaths of many hundreds of people in British Columbia. Once again, could that have been avoided? What more planning could we have done to avoid those tragic deaths? Here's a reality check. There was a time not so long ago, maybe even a year back, when all of the berms along the Fraser Valley were being managed by their own municipalities. The amount of money needed to upgrade our berms and protect our city of Pitt Meadows is in the multi-millions of dollars. There was a regional program established. Our Mayor Bill Dingwall became the chair of that program, and now all the local municipalities in the Lower Mainland are working towards the same cause with shared costs. And I think that is being prepared much more than we were just a couple of years ago. Thank you.
I think that since we are in a flood zone, we need to ensure our dikes are well maintained, all plumbing is up to code, and ensuring all operational pumps are properly functioning. The council also needs to take into account that a lot of homes will be lost if we have extreme flooding. Therefore, we need to work on better measures to ensure we are helping residents equip for these conditions. As a city, we should keep a close eye on housing elevation as well to ensure we are above the floodplain for the next 50 to 100 years as the water table continues to rise. Ensuring that all residents receive education in order to be prepared to protect themselves and their property if and when a flood occurs.
Yes, there was a report in the news just a couple years ago that we are short $100 million to upgrade our diking and drainage system, and that includes replacing the pumps. Our council actually was able to get funding for the Pitt Meadows pump that was actually the oldest pump in the system, and we had a liability issue if we didn't do something with it. We also got increases for funding from the provincial and federal governments for both the main pump station and for Fenton Pump, and that is matching funds. We have to, as a city, not expect senior levels of governments to pay it all. When the ARCSA program put in the drainage system in the agricultural area, that was paid for by senior levels of government, but they never put anything aside to keep upkeep on it. Our dikes are low, our pumps need replacing, and that has to go forward so that we're being in a preventive mode instead of reactive mode when the floods come. It is estimated that over $2 billion will be lost in the Lower Mainland. And the Fraser Basin Council and the Lower Mainland Local Government Association has been working on this for many years.
So, as has been touched on already, obviously, as a city surrounded by water on three sides, our diking and pumping systems are key for improvement and maintenance. I would also add that, although not necessarily related to this topic, we need the underpass to go through. I don't know if anybody else had an issue with it, but last year with the flooding, there was a period where a train was stuck on the tracks and every route out of the city was blocked. I had both my daughters in daycare in other municipalities and I was working from home, not knowing when I was going to be able to go get them. So I think we need that to go through and obviously make sure it's well drained.
Yeah, I think the question was actually about emergency planning. And when you're talking about emergency planning, what you have to do is to understand the risk and explain the strategies and the risks to the local community so they can begin to prepare themselves as well as the total community in the event of different types of emergencies. Has already been established. We have 3 different types of emergency now that we're contending with, and that's to date. In the future, we may have some more that we don't even know about at this point. You know, the atmospheric river, the heat domes, and also the other issues around drought, which is now this year in particular a bit of an issue, because now we've gone for 80-some days. And the only reason that we haven't seen water restrictions this year is that we had all kinds of rain in the spring and a heavy snowpack. So we have to be emergency planning ready. We have to be available to fight all the emergencies and help our people to deal with them.
Thank you. I've been involved with Barb Morgan, who is our emergency coordinator, and doing some courses over the last few months. And it was what we would do in case of an emergency. And we've been working with different agencies trying to come up with a plan, because you need to have a plan in place, because all the seniors and all the children and everything, everybody will be scattered. So Barb Morgan and the team from the emergency planning has been working really hard on this, and we're getting there. We have been working hard about our pumps being upgraded, etc. in the city, and I think that the information is on our webpage. I know it's a scary thing what the weather is doing, but we all need to be prepared. Myself personally, I can't save all of you, so I think we really need to get more involved with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And we're going to start here again. The next question is, where do you stand on progressing with the building of the new RCMP facility in Pitt Meadows?
Okay, thank you. I don't need notes for that. Thank you. Having been involved from the beginning of this process with the RCMP and knowing how many times people waited for hours for the police to come in an emergency, I'm well aware of what goes on in the community. And fortunately for people who haven't had to wait that time, good for you. But there's many times that there isn't even an RCMP officer in Pitt Meadows. Because if there's an emergency in Maple Ridge, guess what, folks? That's where they are. And if it's a murder or whatever, they're there. Sometimes our officers aren't in Pitt Meadows. And we're paying so much money. This new police station, people are saying all these rumors about it. It's not going to cost us anymore. Eventually, it will cost us less because we're not going to have to contribute to a new police building being built in Maple Ridge, which they're going to have to do. And I think that everyone needs to get involved with. There's the project, the people who went through and did the report on it were amazing. And in fact, there was officers who actually work and live in Pitt Meadows who were involved in it. This isn't a pipe dream. This isn't a way to try and gouge the community. This is to keep Pitt Meadows safe. Thank you.
I have really appreciated all of the surveys, the discussions, the meetings that have taken place over this issue in the last 3 years. But let me begin by saying that I think we need to move to an autonomous police station for the following reasons. Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, crime is very much different, and I always hope we can continue to say that. We need more crime prevention in the areas of tagging, graffiti, street racers, the sorts of things that are probably considered less than exciting if you're a policeman, but it focuses on community policing. And that's the key word. We need community police officers that are focused on the sort of crime prevention that we need here in Pitt Meadows. And I think when you have the officers that are involved at that level, they can deal better with the youth, because let's face it, if you're dealing with violent crime every day, your approach to normal activities can be somewhat jaded.
So while I do agree with the need for a new RCMP detachment here in principle, I don't think it needs to be one of our top priorities. And I think the strong presence of RCMP and police presence in our current council has contributed to how fast this has gone ahead. And I think maybe we need to reconsider it.
Yes, I also agree that the RCMP building shouldn't be built this fast. Other options should have been considered, such as renegotiating the contract with Maple Ridge to ensure we had more officers here. What people may have not seen is that this is just the capital cost. And the capital costs are being paid for with a $20 million loan over 30 years. You amortize that and just put a 3% charge on that, we're paying over $30 million for $20 million borrowed. We don't have that kind of money. Maple Ridge has introduced community police officers to deal with nuisance crime. That doesn't need an RCMP officer to do it. And the fact that this is an RCMP building and not our own police detachment, we are going to get the same kind of service and the same kind of priorities as we do with Maple Ridge. We have mutual aid agreements with both Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, and we have to actually give up our police officers when it's more severe crimes. So I think renegotiating and providing alternatives would have been a better choice than delving into a brand new station.
I don't think we currently have the population to support 21.5 million on a separate RCMP detachment. The building and all furniture will be paid for by the residents of Pitt Meadows. This detachment also doesn't mean the jurisdiction of these RCMP officers is strictly to Pitt Meadows. If officers are needed anywhere else, the federal government still has the right to decrease our staffed officers. Having our own detachment building doesn't prevent crime. Most criminal activity is committed by people in their early teens or young adults. By providing community policing programs for young people to engage in, we can create a safer community without taking $21.5 million out of our city's funds. Port Coquitlam had looked into potentially doing this as well a couple years ago. They have 3 times the population that we have, and they voted against this. Why? Because they didn't want to put that type of financial pressure on their residents, and we do not have to either.
Well, I'm hearing the applause, but I'm sticking to my guns on this one, and it's as follows. I did support it, I continue to support it, and I think it's needed. I guess I don't get any applause for that one, but that's okay. You realize we're paying $5.5 million a year, right now. Every year, 5.5 to maybe 6 million it's heading to with the new contract we all heard about. If you break that down, it's 13% of our budget. If you take it even further down, it's $527 per household. If you take it down further, that's $10 a week. That's what you're paying right now, today. And cost should not be the only consideration when you're looking at what do we do next. We pay 20% of all of the costs for police services between Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, 20%. When we did the review of what we get for that 20%, it worked out to about 12% of the services being provided. Do you call that a good return on investment? I don't. I supported this from day one. I've learned all about how these contracts work and the money that's going out, and we have a commitment from our CAO and our CFO of the City of Pitt Meadows. This will not incur a tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. As a former public safety professional, I do support public safety. Having our own autonomous RCMP detachment will, in theory, put more officers in our community and potentially improve public safety. My question I have as a new candidate is, can we deliver this autonomous model for the same cost that we are currently paying our joint detachment? As a new council candidate, I would like a little more information before supporting this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, having our own detachment is long overdue as far as I'm concerned. There is no better time than right now, timing is everything, that to implement this new detachment in Pitt Meadows with costs, construction costs, and never before in our province has there been a de-integration from the RCMP. Having our mayor with his lifelong experience help make this happen for us. It wouldn't happen again. I doubt very much, and costs us much, much more. Our taxes would go up. Safety is an issue in Pitt Meadows. It has been. There's been a decline in RCMP officers in Pitt Meadows. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've been here a long time. Pitt Meadows will continue to grow. Large warehousing, expanded airport, increased traffic congestion, and simply the safety of our residents and property all play an important role in having a local independent detachment. Thank you.
So I absolutely support it. We are a unique community and a unique city. We do not have the problems that Maple Ridge has, and our tax dollars are going into the Maple Ridge policing problems. Instead, we're going to see our tax dollars invested in a return on investment right here in our city. They need to replace their detachment. As was mentioned, we will end up paying for a building we don't own and have no say on of how it's furnished or how it's staffed. Instead, we will get to make those decisions, and it will be right here in Pitt Meadows. I can also tell you, police officers need to commute back and forth. Every time they arrest someone, they got to go back to the main detachment. They're not here in Pitt Meadows. So that's a delay in response. From a public safety point of view, that should concern you. As the victim of an in-progress crime back in 2009, I can tell you those seconds mattered. You want police in our community. You want them visible here to deter crime, and you want them when you need an emergency, when you have an emergency.
Thank you. I am currently on the council that supported this, and I continue to support this. And I think it's important to look at why. We were hearing from residents that there was a lack of police presence, and that there was a perception that the police office that we have in Pitt Meadows was closed in the evenings and weekends, and that the police were just not accessible. With our current model, the police are naturally going to go to where the crime is, which tends to be mostly Maple Ridge. That's where the action is. So we've got 23 members that we pay for, and that investment is going to Maple Ridge. So this policing model that we have in Pitt Meadows that we're proposing keeps our investment here. Having the detachment in the location that we're proposing is highly visible. It helps create that visible walk-up space where if you need help, you know where to go. It's accessible to the core, Lougheed Highway, eyes on the park, more boots on the ground. So I think that's really important. It is funded without a tax increase, so that's really important to say. And other communities of similar size like White Rock, they have their own detachment too. So I think this is really good for us for now and for the future. This is about public safety, and that's really important to me as a candidate and a councillor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're up again. Awesome. So the next question. Pitt Meadows is full of wonderful and vibrant small businesses. How do you plan on supporting small business?
Yeah, this is a unique question. What can we do for, or how do I plan to support business? You know, something that we saw during the pandemic was a lot of community support for small businesses to try to keep everybody open. So what I do personally is I eat way more takeout than I should, I think, as a human. Did that tonight as well. I do shop local, and we do support our businesses as well. I think what we could do as a city is resources and tools, create networking opportunities for those that are starting up, connect them to chamber events. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and we're going to see more of that with the economic development strategy that's coming forward. So thank you. And I want to thank you all for supporting local business too, that you worked hard to do that during the pandemic to keep everybody open.
So as a previous and current business owner in the city, I think I have a unique view on how to help small businesses. Firstly, there's a need for small business spaces, and for lease and for purchase, not giant warehouses, not more industrial. We don't need those spaces. We need to look for developing wisely small businesses that startup businesses can start in and grow bigger, but not overcommit to a giant warehouse. Secondly, I think we need to lean on and access the Economic Development Advisory Committee. The panel of city-chosen volunteers are eager to use their experience and enthusiasm to shape the development of businesses in the city. They're business owners from the city, in a wide spectrum, and we need to listen to their concerns. Lastly, I think we need to take the advice of the Economic Development Strategy suggestions. It's interim right now, but the study is almost complete, and they've made a few recommendations that could be put into place fast at a very low cost to the city. And one of them was promoting tourism, and another one was creating an online database where we can list the businesses that are right here in Pitt Meadows so people know where to go and how to access those businesses with virtually no cost to the city.
Well, I have the short form answer to that. Thank you. Thank you. Listening to their needs, working together to find successful solutions to those needs, helping to promote business in Pitt Meadows. And importantly, this includes the many home-based businesses that we have in our community. Unknown, I think there's 660 businesses all total in Pitt Meadows, and many of those are home-based businesses. And thank you.
Again, thank you. I would work to ensure the city implements programs, policies, and services that support economic development in the community. As a city, not to sound like a broken record, we need to ensure we are providing adequate retail locations for our businesses through development opportunities or redevelopment opportunities when they occur. We need to keep the businesses we have here and attract new ones when we can. Providing more information on the city's website, walking businesses through how to apply for business licenses, what are the next steps, and then promoting our city through tourism, making sure everyone knows that Pitt Meadows is open for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I felt this question was very similar to one that was asked previously. So I struggled with how do you split the first one from the second question, which were all business related. As a matter of interest in the audience this evening, by a show of hands, how many business owners are sitting here tonight? Anybody? Yes, I thought there might be a few. So one of the things I've practiced is what I preach, and that is shop local. My election signs were printed by a local business. My election photographs were taken by a business is just at the end of Osprey Village here. I do my best to always shop in our city, but the pandemic hit, and we learned how to pivot and move quickly and develop new ideas to support our local businesses because so many of them were running into financial trouble, and we formed committees that allowed business to expand their patios, bring in more customers. We learned a lot from that moment, that we can act fast when we need to. We set up the Economic Committee at that time, which was a fast-moving committee, and it morphed into the Economic Development Committee, of which I'm proud to be a liaison, and the next meeting is tomorrow, and I will continue on that endeavor. I think that's enough for me. Thank you.
So I broke this question down in more of an analytical breakdown. So how can we plan to support small businesses? So a couple strategies I came up with that we could do is by implementing programs, policies, and services that support economic development in our community. Tax exemptions, rebates, tax breaks for businesses with less than 50 employees. Establish a local service area in which businesses and light industry property owners can join together to finance marketing, promotional, and revitalization programs through a municipal grant and local service property tax. And as everybody has already mentioned, location is definitely key.
Yes, I think one of the first things we have always promoted is shop locally. And working with the Chamber's been around serving both our communities for many years, and they have already been through incentives and what would work for enticing businesses to town. And I will go back to the tax increases that we've seen over the last 4 years, 20% for residents and 60% for businesses. We need to reduce the tax load so that people have more money to spend in town, and also to reduce the taxes on the businesses because that impacts their rental rates. Taxes go up, rental goes up, and most businesses have a triple net cost. That means any taxes and assessment are passed on to the business at hand.
So I touched on it in a previous question. We need to bring the businesses to the people that need to use them. But we're quickly running out of land. So older buildings that are inefficiently using their space might need to be redeveloped. But I think it's important that if we do that, the existing business owners in those buildings, we offer them support and make sure that we can help them secure either permanent or temporary spaces so that they can maintain business continuity.
I work a lot with new businesses, particularly in the agriculture technology field. And again, I'm just going to go back and reiterate some points because we talked about what do businesses need. Okay, they need labor, and how do we solve that? We've got to improve transportation and get the underpass in. The other thing that they need is access to information. Constantly, new businesses need to know, are there any grants out there that can help me to invest in training for my people, hire new people, hire specialties, apprenticeship training, and all of those sorts of things are available and need to be made available on our website and with the Economic Development Group. The other initiative that's recently being taken is the Surrey Board of Trade has asked the provincial government to reinstate the ability of business owners to vote where they own a business. This was taken away back I guess, 30 years ago. And it seems rather odd that when you have a vested interest, you are paying taxes and you have no voice. It doesn't seem like you're really being represented.
Thank you. As the liaison to the Chamber of Commerce, I can tell you that we actually issued 1,069 business licenses in Pitt Meadows. That's how many small businesses and business operators there are here. We're putting that list with the Chamber to ensure that they are Chamber members also, because not everybody is. When we had the Economic Development team here, an office here, what was that was good for that was that they had the ability then to go and visit all these new businesses that were opening and to help them get through the path. But unfortunately, 8 years ago, it was dissolved. So now with the pandemic and everything else that's been going on, we're now getting up to speed and we are working with small businesses. And I think by having a positive outlook and people shopping local, it's a very old term, but we need to ensure that these businesses survive here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to move into a CP question here.
Awesome.
Question I have here is, there are citizens concerned about noise and air quality related to CP operations. What specifications do you plan to take to ensure impacted residents are protected?
Number 7, I believe
It's
question number 7 down the table. What do I plan on doing? Well, unfortunately, CPE is here. They're not going anywhere, folks. We, as a council and a staff, have been working our butts off, trying to get negotiations going. As all of you are aware, when you're in negotiations, you can't discuss what's going on in those negotiations. That's not how good business is run. I want to see mitigation done so these people don't have to breathe the air. I lived on the tracks with my children for 18 years. And now I'm beating myself up thinking, did my daughter die from leukemia 20 years ago because what I exposed her to as a child? That doesn't make me feel good, and I'm not trying to put my head in the sand. We need to do something, but quite honestly, CPR runs the community, it runs Canada, and it runs the states. So we need to work together as a team, and we are working. We're trying our best. And thank you to citizens who have come out, as Heather, saying, you know, we got to do something. We are trying so hard, and it will happen. It's just going to be a big trip. Thank you.
I have looked at the consultant reports related to the pollution that is going to be caused by any extension of CP's logistics yard, and also have considered some of the third rail options that shows diesel engines idling for long periods of time. And I certainly can understand why people are concerned and upset. I think even though it's a federal regulated industry, I do think that pressure needs to be extended beyond just CP. It needs to go to the federal government because they're all about clean air. So I would applaud the efforts of the current council to try and mitigate, to try and get every possible advantage out of the CP that they can, but also to bring in the federal government to ask them to stand with local municipalities that are having real problems.
So I would employ a different tactic. I don't think keeping things close to our chest is serving our community. I think we need more transparency and we need to see what these discussions actually are. Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I was one that thought the underpass on Harris, even though we need it, should never have proceeded without the discussion of logistics. It goes to good cop, bad cop. You have to have someone pushing against CP to get anything from them, We definitely wanted the underpass, but now we've given away, what kind of negotiating power do we have to stop the logistics yard? Basically, the air quality, the sound, everything is impacting these poor people that live on the railway, and nothing should have gone forward before there was sound and air and site mitigation on all the track, not just on part of it.
The city had conducted an air quality health risk assessment of the current and predicted 2030 exhaust emissions from CP in November 2021 and a final report in July 2022. The findings indicated that the health effects due to railway emissions exceeded acceptable health thresholds. The health risks were predicted to increase in future scenarios based on 2030 rail operations. Based on a review of this report, there are no enforceable standards governing the impacts on local air quality by train emissions. That being said, I don't plan on going down without a fight. As your councillor, I will advocate for better standards from CP Rail by questioning their current standards, ensuring there are proper follow-ups, quality checks, and compensation from CP Rail. I will do everything in my power to ensure that the health, safety, and well-being of the residents is a priority. And as Gwen said, it's not fair for the residents, the children, or any of us to have to inhale these emissions. It's not good for our health regardless. And so I do have 30 seconds. I have spoken to a lot of residents, and I've been hearing this quote of, well, it's their fault they bought on that side of the train. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But they're still our residents in our community. And when they bought, the train and the CP rail wasn't as bad. So I don't think that's a fair response to be using on other residents.
Okay, so I'll take the last comment if you don't mind. Okay. Nobody on this council, nobody in our staff is making those types of comments. We treat everybody living along the rail just like any other citizen. You're a member of this community and we're here to protect your quality of life and best interests. When it comes to this issue, every time I stand up in council and talk about this, because of my background, council rolls their eyes a little bit because they know I'm going to get into the weed patch with the technicalities of why is there a health concern. When diesel engines burn diesel fuel, it puts particulates into the air, and anything below 2.5 microns is so fine it gets into your lungs and you start to have problems. The longer you're there, the worse it gets. One of the solutions possibly over the next 5 to 10 years from CP Rail side of this is a commitment from them, which they do have, to retrofit every locomotive in the fleet, which is thousands, by the way, many of which are now 30 years old. They're going to retrofit all the old ones, and when they buy the new ones, they will in fact have virtually no emissions coming out of the pipe stack. Just the same as currently large heavy-duty diesel trucks on our roads in Canada today. There is virtually nothing coming out of the exhaust stacks. Mitigation by our top leadership in City Hall. I can tell you we have spent hundreds of hours on this issue. When it comes to transparency, sir, all I can tell you is we can only reveal what the contract negotiations allow us to talk about in public. And that's the facts. Thank you.
The current council does not support the expansion of the CP logistics parks, and I strongly agree with this position. If the city is not successful in opposing the CP logistics park expansion, and the federal government approves this project, the city needs to push CP and the federal government for the highest possible remediation standards available to ensure that health issues like noise, air quality, and water contamination caused by drainage, once they pave that farmland, are dealt with. The hope is to try and lessen these impacts as much as possible of the residents of Pitt Meadows and keep Pitt Meadows a livable city. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I can say the City and Council have been working very hard at collecting the amount of data that we have, which has been recently sent to Transport Canada along with CP's proposal for the logistics park. This also includes the road and rail project, which is not part of the logistics parts. It's a separate project completely. But the health concerns is a concern for the city. It's a concern for council as well. And and if you get a chance, it's a 300-plus page report, very detailed with a lot of information that proves our point. And hopefully that, with lobbying with the provincial and federal government, we can get them to see that it's time that CP starts improving their air quality and their noise concerns for Pitt Meadows. Thank you.
So it's disheartening. CP comes in and they drop a logistics park in our small community, and there's not too much we can do about it, but we're gonna fight it and we're gonna try and stop them. I have to compliment the city. They have negotiated and they have gone above and beyond. They've done independent work to counter what we've heard from CP, and they've proved them to be infactual. The health impacts are very concerning. I've met with the citizens and I've heard and I've seen their reports. And the worst part about it is that we won't know what those health impacts will be for years. After meeting with one of the concerned residents, I did not sleep well that night. It is a concern. But there are no protected, enforceable levels. We need to reach out and advocate for Health Canada, the federal government, and the CTA to set a level so that we can hold CP to those standards. We are not alone in this fight. It impacts numerous communities right across Canada, and if we band together, we need to get CP held to a proper standard.
So train traffic is expected to double in the next 10 years and go from 3.5 hours per day to 7 hours per day. I used to live along the tracks, and when I first moved to Pitt Meadows in 2000, I think we had 24 trains a day. So now we have a lot more than that, and it's growing. CP will continue to do that, whether we have an underpass or not. So these are two very separate issues that have been highlighted tonight. One is the Harris Road Underpass, which we support. Allison is tired of waiting at the tracks, and I did that today too, and I'm tired of that, and I'm sure we're all tired of waiting at the tracks, causing delays. So we support that as a community. We oppose the CP Logistics Park. The two are very separate. And even if we had no underpass, they would continue to build longer trains. We would continue to have health issues. So we want this in our community. But we need to continue our strong opposition to the CP Logistics Park, and we need to continue to be a strong voice and advocate for mitigation strategies, because we are concerned about those health risks and the report that came out in July. That is on the website if you want more information about what's in those health risks, but it really confirmed what residents knew all along, that we do have health risks associated with living along the tracks. So that is important to us. I'm running out of time. Thank you. We need to consider our actions today, as this is not only impacting our present generation, but future generations to come. And we've seen the effects of climate change already in our heat and cold emergencies, our flooding, our fires, the rivers. And I think that we need to do more as individuals and a city to look at how we're living our lifestyles. Food production, the impacts on fishing. We're seeing that everywhere. I'm going to start winging it because I've messed up all my notes here. So as a city, what are we doing? I know we can do more, but we do have a few initiatives. We do have electric charging stations. We have a green waste program. Many years ago, I think it was a few terms ago on council, we took a hard look at our garbage program and our waste. And we actually went to bi-weekly garbage pickup at that point and decided to have a weekly green waste pickup. That was a big change for us at the time, and we did it as a community. It was the right thing to do. I really would like to see a task force, a community group on this, because I think the community has a ton of ideas on what we could do together to address climate change. And I think that I'd love to see a city committee on that. Thank you.
Oh, is it off? There we go. So, do I support taking action on climate change? Absolutely. We need to advocate for greener options. We need to make incentives for environmentally friendly businesses and keep a watchful eye on businesses that negatively impact our environment. I think we should be careful before allowing businesses to start operating in our city that could be detrimental to our water, air, and land. We need to keep the city itself accountable, setting goals for carbon footprints, and we need to keep ourselves accountable. As some of my candidates can attest, when turning up, I do my best to not take a car around Pitt Meadows. That's why I'm part of the Active Transportation Committee. It keeps us on bikes and walking as much as possible, and that, what I think is important, is part of a livable city, so we can leave our cars at home, walk, feel safe, ride our bikes and feel safe.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Yes, climate change is a fact, and the effects, as we have recently witnessed, are only increasing in severity. Atmospheric rivers, heat domes, droughts, floods, all are serious concerns we must be prepared for. And Pitt Meadows has been working hard for many years at trying to prevent climate change. We're doing our part, I can say. This building was built environmentally friendly, for example. And community gardens, we're promoting charging stations for electric vehicles. We are a destination location for cyclists, pedestrians. We're a small community. Everything, for the most part, is walkable, or cycling too. So I think we're on the right track. Can we do more? Yes, we can always do more. Thank you.
Do I support climate change? Yes, I do. The City of Pitt Meadows is committed to limiting the impacts of climate change. Pitt Meadows, known as the natural place, is working hard at the local government level to reduce the negative impacts of energy use while mitigating and adapting to the impacts of climate change. There are many green initiatives in the new official community plan. Sustainability resources, climate action are just a couple. So I do support climate change action, and I'll do my best to continue with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. It's kind of funny, the previous question was about CP Rail, and we're talking about climate change. And boy, those diesel engines really don't help the climate, do they? One thing I've noticed in the last few years, I'm sure you all did, climate change finally is being admitted by most senior politicians, both sides of the border, north and south. We went a long time, especially in the United States, with what were known as climate deniers, and there are still some around. But we've all lived through what is reality of climate change for the last few years. And I think we've already mentioned a few of those major issues that we've experienced. So we got the politicians on board. They're all trying to work to it. But have you noticed every time there's a question about the cost of how do we start to fight and battle climate change? Have you noticed what happens? Everybody screams about the cost of doing this, because we've got to start giving up some of the things we've taken for granted all our lives. So I'm looking forward. I'm sorry, I'm rambling over there, am I? Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to look at our building codes. We're going to be introducing more electric charging stations. I'm looking forward to more solar power, more wind power, and so on, because we've got to get out of the use of fossil fuels, which is one of the leading contributors to climate change on our planet. Thank you.
Woo, go Tesla. So I do support Pitt Meadows taking action to limit the effect of climate change. So we have been taking initiatives towards this. We have the Going Green initiatives, sustainability resources, invasive species, climate action, zero waste campaigns. I think if we really want to take it a step further, we could introduce something that a lot of cities are starting to do, which is a plastic bags and single-use items bylaw. This bylaw would ban plastic bag checkouts, styrofoam cups, takeout containers, plates, and bowls, which currently leads to 1.1 billion single-use items being dumped in Metro Vancouver each year. This small change can make a significant impact on environment and oceans. Doing so will assist in preserving conservation in the oceans and also help to preserve the natural beauty of Pitt Meadows.
Yes, I was on council when we introduced garbage pickup only every 2 weeks, and there was an uproar at first until we included green waste pickup weekly. and that changed the habits of everyone. We all became better at composting and making sure that things were recyclable and turn those in. So I bet you a lot of us here see there's very little garbage in your garbage these days because businesses have also been changing how they do business. As I said before, the flood control, we have to do something preventive in it. We have to involve other levels of government. We had green initiatives for buildings, which this building was built under the LEEDS program. And when we use green initiatives, we are eligible for grants from senior levels of government. So if people want a new pool and recreation center, we would be very high on the list to getting that done instead of other objectives. And that's been on the books for years.
So a key strategy to fight climate change is obviously get as many cars off the road as we can. We're a fairly tight-knit community, and we shouldn't need to rely on them as much as we do. It's currently Go by Bike Week. I believe it used to be Bike to Work Week. Anyway, so this week I've been, as I think I mentioned, I've been dropping off my girls and picking them up with my bike and our bike trailer. And I believe it was Tuesday evening, might have been Monday evening actually. A member of the community emailed all of the candidates and current council members concerned about the lack of safe bike lanes going up Harris Road. Unfortunately, it feels like it might be a little too late for that, but I think making sure that we do have safe bike routes throughout the city is imperative, especially with a lot of our younger families living in this area needing to get up to where the elementary schools are, to where the businesses are, to everything like that. I think there's also lots of other initiatives we can take. I mean, we could help supplement other provincial or even federal programs for rebates for replacing old furnaces with new high-efficiency electric ones, for installing electric vehicle chargers in your home. There's lots of things that we can do.
Yeah, this is a topic that has gained a lot of interest recently, and we can go in an awful lot of directions with it. Just recently, as I mentioned, I'm working with a company called Food Mesh, and they have just concluded a pilot project with the City of Richmond. And I just want to talk a little bit about what they were doing. The first premise is that 58% of all food produced in Canada is never consumed. And why am I bringing this up under climate action? Well, that represents 8% of greenhouse gas emissions are due to that food waste and food loss. So this company that created an app provides an opportunity for food retailers, distributors, and farmers to all engage in making sure that food doesn't end up in the landfill. And here's what their first year of business ended up with. In 1 year, they saved 225,000 kilograms of food from being thrown away. They recovered 300,000 meals to feed the hungry. They generated $1.25 million in savings to businesses and charities, and they reduced farmers' costs, providing them with 50,000 kilograms of food. I think what we need to do as a council is to be very open-minded and constantly on the lookout for solutions like this.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed what is actually happening in Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge with food. Our local Friends in Need Food Bank, which I'm a director on the board, we actually have diverted 3 million pounds of food over the last 3 years from going to landfill. 3 million. 50% of the food went to charities. The other 50% is being distributed to farmers to feed their cattle. So 0% is going into landfill. I think for smaller communities, that's a pretty big accomplishment. We have gone from the charity value on a dollar from $5 to $7, which is huge to do. And 1 million kilos of emissions has been diverted from going to the air. So I think we all should deserve applause for that. We've done a darn good job here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this question is, what do you hope to accomplish during your term in council, on council, excuse me?
I'm hoping to achieve a better understanding with people of what's going on in council. We're open to come and talk anytime, but for some reason it's people don't attend meetings anymore. They say they're watching them online. I don't know what's going on, but most of us are pretty open to having a discussion, and as a councillor, that's what I like to do. I like to talk to people. The other thing we're gonna happen is this low-cost housing that we're bringing to Pitt Meadows. This is gonna be such an exciting time for people, so they don't have to worry so much that they can't afford to live in an expensive seniors residence. They can afford to live in this one. As a director from the Community Service Board, I can tell you, our new building in Maple Ridge is already full. We've been open for 3.5 months, and that building is filled. So that's what I'm hoping we can do for Pitt Meadows also. Thank you.
My first concern, and what has really caused me to get involved in politics, is that I don't want to see any more losses of farmland in Pitt Meadows. Thank you. We only have 5% of the province that's arable. So let's make sure we don't lose any more of it. Some of the other things that I've come across in my recent research is I was involved with the farmers market. And the farmers market creates a real opportunity for local food security. And one of the things that was quite interesting to me, and that as a council we need to get behind and support, is a $27 a week food voucher program to ensure that the marginalized have access to fresh, quality food like we have here in Pitt Meadows. And the thing that disturbed me, although that was a great thing to hear, it's basically oversubscribed within the first 2 weeks that it's made available. So we need to put more emphasis, more support behind that.
So forgive me, I might speak quickly here to try to get in under time. My main priority is getting a swimming pool here in Pitt Meadows. As a father of 2 young daughters, trying to book them in for swimming lessons, I have to go to neighboring communities who give priority booking to their residents. That leaves me often with either really terrible times that do not work for our family, or I have to take time off from work to make it work. Being a city surrounded on 3 sides by water, swimming is a key life lesson, and we need to make sure that our residents have access to those lessons. There are also lots of citizens in this community that are begging for a place to swim. And the Maple Ridge pool is often overbooked as well. Now I know it's a huge cost. I believe the Pitt Meadows new rec center, which to be fair included an ice rink and a library and whole community center, it costs somewhere in the range of $125 million or something like that. It would be significantly less without all those additional items. And I believe that we've been quite literally selling the farm to developers and not getting enough out of them from it. So I think we need more community amenity contributions from these developers in exchange for all these big developments that are going in to help fund a new swimming pool for Pitt Meadows.
Thank you, and I concur with the pool. The pool's been planned for many years. It was when our population was going to reach 20,000, and we're bang on right now. The money that has been borrowed for the RCMP could be better utilized, in my opinion, for a pool for the young families that are now in town. The last census that was taken, believe it or not, our average age is, that is the most populated is 41. So young families with and under 12. We used to have a larger proportion of seniors, and we have looked after some of the needs with Westbrook and building homes that are one level so that they can access it. I also want to work in partnership with other levels of government. There is only one taxpayer, and that is us. We pay both municipal, regional, provincial, and federal tax, and we haven't been seeing in the last year very much grants coming Pitt Meadows way. We have to get creative with the applications, and as I said, a pool would be great as we put it under a green initiative, and that's what other communities have been putting in and getting funding from senior levels of government. I also want to see us get the developers to pay more DCCs, and I think there is always the opportunity, even when a project is going forward, to change it. As for the construction of sidewalks in South Bonson, as the Ani's putting in, there is big gaps between the sidewalks and the roadways with no designated protected bike lane. Okay, sorry, and that's it, thanks.
What do you hope to accomplish during your term? So this is quite a heavy question, so I came up with a list. Number one is I want to make sure residents feel supported, respected, and that they're being heard. I want to inspire the future youth to get involved in city programs and initiatives. A community where agriculture is dominant land use and farmland is protected for food production. A community where the environment and natural areas are conserved and enhanced so they enrich the quality of our lives. A community where the economy is vibrant and diverse and local businesses are flourishing. A walkable and compact community that offers easy access to nature, amenities, and has a range of housing options to suit all needs through all stages of life. A community where arts, culture, and heritage help define Pitt Meadows' unique identity. Where parks, recreation, public spaces contribute significantly to community character and quality of life. A connected community that is easy to get around by all modes of transportation.
So that was an interesting question, and I started off by saying, what do you intend to accomplish? And I said, a lot. And similar to what we've accomplished in the last 4 years, which has been a lot. And the top list of priorities, which is published by city, it's online, it gets updated every quarter. We tend to follow those lists of priorities as the things that we as a council wish to do. And that's where we get a lot of our council direction. And we're all expected to work on those top priorities that are agreed on and supported by staff. However, on top of all of the major priorities, I do see that one of the most significant, impactful issues that we've got in our community indeed is CP Rail. So I intend to carry on looking for effective mitigation to help the folks that are really suffering with the noise and the health issues. That is something I think council is doing a lot. We cannot let up the pressure. We have to keep going. Parks and Recs and Culture Plan, by the way, includes aquatics. It's being discussed. I'd love to fast track more of the Parks, Rec and Culture Plan, which includes cycle lanes on Harris Road. I do know there's concerns that they're not separated and they're not got any hard barrier between those and the roads. I don't know if there's much we can do at this stage, but I certainly think that's another thing that we could be looking at. There's so much I could talk about what I'd like to do, but I need to move it over because I got the red card. Thank you.
If elected, I would hope to make some progress in my top 3 priorities, which are public safety, economic development for small businesses, and transportation issues that affect us all on a daily basis. The city has got some good things in place. The widening of Airport Way, the Harris Underpass that we all want, but there's still a couple pieces missing. We don't have the provincial government commitment to make any improvements to our access to the Lougheed Highway, and TransLink hasn't committed to when they're going to increase the access to the Golden Ears Bridge, so we have some work to do there. We have good walking and cycling opportunities throughout the community. Continued development and improvements need to occur to make this as safe as possible. The Transportation Master Plan and new official community plan provide policies and objectives and guide public transit and walking and cycling improvements. I'll be working hard as an independent council member to move issues forward that make sense for Pitt Meadows. I have lived in Pitt Meadows for over 30 years and plan to stay here. I hope to, play an active role in keeping Pitt Meadows a livable city as we continue to grow. That's what I hope to accomplish.
Thank you. Well, there's so much we can say here. But first I'd like to say how proud I am of this mayor and council for the tremendous amount of work the past 4 years that they have put in. There is so much more work to accomplish, though, in our community. Increased public health and safety, addressing transportation issues, congestion issues, seeing through the completion of Harris Road Underpass, Police Department, Fire Hall, Art Gallery, Heritage Park, which includes the general store and Hoffman Garage, the newly acquired Golden Ears Park, a memorial garden, a long overdue rebuilding of our high school, and seeing the completion of the industrial park once and for all, just to name a few. Thank you.
So I'm going to go with number 1 on my platform, public safety. We have wants, like a pool, and then we have needs, and needs are public safety. We need to be safe in our own community. Did you guys know that after 6 p.m., we do not have a staffed fire department? That means we're relying on volunteer call-out to come to the fire hall and then attend our emergencies. With the delayed response times that we're seeing with BC Ambulance, we can't afford to do that anymore. When you compare our populations to other cities, we have 8 full-time firefighters, and it's not enough. I know people will say that it's expensive to have a fire department, but we're bleeding tax money. We're training these guys and girls, and they're going to other cities. They're getting jobs away from Pitt Meadows. We need to invest in our city, train them here, get them working here in the city in which they volunteer and they're a part of. The safety of our residents, the safety of our firefighters. We need to get a plan for appropriate staffing levels. And I know it can't happen overnight. We can't magically make it appear, but we need to get a plan in place.
Thank you. I just want to expound on what Allison was saying too. That's top of my mind as well. Our current POC model is not working for us. It's not sustainable. We have 8 full-time firefighters. White Rock, with a similar population, has 23. Powell River, with a lot less of a population, has 16, double what we have. In the last 2 years, we lost 30 paid-on-call firefighters in our community, 30. So that's a big concern for us. So that's why you're seeing that as a priority list in some of our campaign promotions, is that we want to prioritize community safety. Not only for you, for the community, but for responders as well that are responding to these calls. Another thing I hope to accomplish in the term is that 4 years from now, if elected, I can look back and that we have successful mitigation strategies for road and rail, and that residents were involved in that work. I hope to say that we have a pool feasibility study, maybe a pool on the way. I don't want to promise that, but let's see what that study says. And our Parks and Rec master plan. I also want to say that my life's work has been with First Nations communities. That's really important to me, that Catesy First Nation is included in what we do, and that we action the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action at the local government level. I want to do this work respectfully as a council, have meaningful conversations and debate, and listen to residents. So that's really important, and I look forward to Nicole's leadership. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for attending tonight. I know you could have been home watching Survivor, but instead you came and sweated it out with all of us here today. And I want to thank the candidates for running. It takes a lot of courage and commitment to put your name up there and name on a sign or a pamphlet, and I thank you for that, for your passion for the community. I want to highlight a few people that are here today. Katie, Sullivan and Hudson Campbell. I don't know if Mr. Isaac is in the room, but they were running for school board and they didn't have an opportunity tonight to speak, but impressive. And you want to get to meet them after, so thank you for that. I want to thank you for electing me for the past 14 years on council. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve this community. If elected, I will continue to work hard. If you know anything about me, I go all in. I will give you the best of me and bring that community leadership experience to the table. We've done a lot of work for you the past 4 terms, and I want to continue to see those projects happen. I want to continue to be your voice and bring that experience and continuity to the table. So I just want to say thank you all, and pass it over to Allison.
I want to thank you for coming out tonight and hearing us answer your questions. I hope you saw that I would make a great counselor for Pitt Meadows, not just because of my education and experience, but more importantly, because I'm a good person. I will make Pitt Meadows safer, economically stronger, while maintaining our small town feel. I'm here because I want to make the city I love better. No ego, no baggage, no drama. I'm genuine, I'm honest, and I'm committed to this city. I'm knowledgeable about Pitt Meadows issues, engaged in the community, and I will work hard for you, the residents. I have a voice that I'm willing to use when difficult decisions need to be made, but I will listen. I love meeting the residents. I am hearing their concerns and finding a way to make things better. I hope I've showed you I'm calm, respectful, and I promise together with the citizens, the councillors, and our mayor, and the city staff, I will get things done that need to get done. Tonight, I hope you saw who I am and what I plan to do for our city. I will represent our city with dignity and decorum. I hope you vote Evans.
Thank you. As a business professional with over 40 years of leadership and management experience, I am confident we can attract more investments and business opportunities to our city. However, we need to maintain a compact urban environment that balances our financial, environmental, and social sustainability, while still respecting our small town culture and charm. As a councillor, I am committed to our residents and believe it is important to protect and preserve the exceptional quality of life and public safety that our residents here expect and deserve. I will continue to help work on a transportation plan that makes sense for everyone, and I'm committed to being a councillor who will ensure the delivery of top quality services, protect and maintain our infrastructure with the least financial impact on you, the taxpayer. As a member of council, I recognize that our actions have an impact on the lives of the residents, property owners, and businesses in our community. Therefore, fulfilling my obligations and duties responsibly requires commitment to the highest ethical standards. I will be working for you, protecting our community and the future of Pitt Meadows. In closing, I wish to thank you all for taking the time and perseverance to be here tonight. Pitt Meadows is our home, our neighborhood. It's our city. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to echo my fellow colleagues up here that thank you for coming out this evening. I served the community for 32 years as a member of the volunteer fire department, and then I was considered to be very lucky to be hired as a career fire chief and serve the community in that capacity. If elected, I'll be an independent voice on council and work hard for the community, making sound decisions that make sense for Pitt Meadows based on community engagement and information provided by staff. I will work and treat my fellow council members with respect. Pitt Meadows has a livable city feel that draws people here. As a community, we need some growth in the community to keep taxes as low as possible. The challenge we all face is to manage that growth and ensure it makes sense for our community and it goes into the right places. I see significant challenges coming before our city, and I feel some tough decisions need to be made. I feel I have the knowledge, experience to help Pitt Meadows thrive and continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. so I think most of us are glad the evening's coming to a close. It's been pretty warm in here, but this has been an informative session, no doubt. And thanks to the candidates sitting up on the front table here for being respectful this evening and for being well informed to be able to answer all these questions. I'll leave you with these final thoughts. What is needed for the next 4 years from a council is continuity. In other words, going forward with a council that's proven to work together with trust to build on the successes of the last 4 years and to see the important work that's coming down the pipe. We've got to see it through. We've got to complete it. We all want our community to be a place where everyone feels included and where we can prosper, but in a safe, stable environment. Our quality of life, to live, work, and play in a place we can all be proud of and feel part of. If you agree it's important, you vote to protect and strengthen what makes Pitt Meadows proud. I hope I can count on you for your support in this election. And as your councillor, I pledge to continue with the same integrity, work ethic I have lived by for the last 4 years as your city councillor. Vote for what you want in a councillor, which I must believe includes respectful engagement, experience, integrity, reliability, and hard work. I will close by asking for your support and for your continued trust, and I offer my sincere thanks for you listening and giving us all your time this evening. And thanks to the Chamber for this opportunity to meet, and to you all for listening. Thank you.
I want to take, hello?
Just on the bottom there.
Hello, testing. I want to take this time to thank everybody who took the time out to come and listen to us tonight. I hope I was able to provide a new insight and perspective to everyone. What I would like to see for our city is better budgeting and a council that understands the financial hardships and issues the residents face. A council that is transparent and open to hearing opposing voices, all while working to ensure a healthy, safe, and prosperous future for the residents of Pitt Meadows. I would like our residents to feel like they're being heard and respected, and that their voices do matter. I would like to have the honor to be your guys' voice, to be the voice of your family. Allow me to use my skills, my passion, my honesty to represent the city. Allow me to work for you. I want you to feel safe and respected when you come to council. And I want to recap that I do have a background in farming, finances, real estate, and property development as well too. So I do feel like I can be an asset to this council. I've planted my roots here in Pitt Meadows for generations to come. And 40 years from today, I would like to look back and be proud and say, this is my city.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out on this warm evening. And actually, it's an improvement now with at least the drapes down here. They never had that before, so it would have been 10 degrees hotter at least in here. I want to thank the Chamber for having this opportunity for coming out and talking to the citizens one-on-one. You've heard all our contributions and what we could bring to council. I'm hoping that I would get a chance to use my 21 years experience, 30 years in both politics and business, to bring a different perspective to the table and to make sure that people are heard at the table. Because one of the things that changed with this council was they shortened the question period right when they got in council to 15 minutes only. That needs to be expanded as time allows to make sure that people's voices are heard there. There has to be respectful dialogue at council, but there also has to be respectful dialogue between council and citizens. Their input matters. So I'm hoping to come back and bring a different and fresh perspective after 4 years off, though not completely off with the amount of work I've been doing behind the scenes and answering questions on how things usually work at council. So remember on the voting day to vote for Janice Alkerton, and I will continue to work hard to represent all of the citizens of Pitt Meadows.
Hi, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to answer one of the questions that was perhaps ironically not answered here tonight. One of the questions we prepared was how are we going to ensure that everybody feels heard? So, as Janice mentioned, I think we need to remove that, or at least expand that limit on open speech at council meetings so that people do have the opportunity to speak. I also want to encourage everybody now, and if I get elected, to reach out to me personally and give me your questions, give me your feedback. And I might not have an answer for you right away, but I will take that as an opportunity to learn, grow, and I will get back to you. The current council does have a very cohesive vision and a very cohesive voice, and there is something to be said about that. But there is also something to be said about having opposing visions, opposing views, and opposing perspectives. I'm hoping that with your help, I can be your voice on council. Thank you.
One of the things that hasn't really been mentioned here tonight, we've talked about costs, we've talked about spending an awful lot of money. One of the things we haven't talked about is that we're facing, the next 4 years is an unprecedented time. It's been 40 years since we've experienced rising interest rates. It's been close to that where we have seen an annual inflation rate that's going up into the 7.5%. Not only does that affect us, but it affects the operation of the city as well. So when we talk about tough decisions to be made, you'll have to decide, when you look at the group of candidates before you tonight, who are best able, in times of controversy, in times that tough decisions have to be made, who do you think has the maturity and the wisdom to make the right decision in those situations? And I certainly hope that you consider me in that category. Again, so thank you so much for coming out. As we talked about, we would really like to see a wide array of talents and lenses, if you will, at the council table. One of the areas that's sadly underrepresented is agriculture. And I certainly hope that you can consider me as that voice for local farmers at the table. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Flora from the BIA, which is the Business Association in Maple Ridge. Flora came down tonight to help out, and I think thank you so much for doing that. Christy, thank you for coming to our Chamber of Commerce. I know it's going to be awesome, and thank you. As the council rep, it's nice to have some consistency in what we're doing. I didn't want to correct anybody tonight, but I just need to say something. We actually have 2 question periods now at council, 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after the liaison report. We do listen to people. That's what we're about. We don't always agree on everything. I know that there's people, if you're not attending council meetings, you can't read about it in the newspaper because that doesn't happen anymore. The other thing is, I told one of the old-timers today, we can't swim in ditches anymore, folks. We need to find some place for these kids to do swimming lessons. And the feasibility study is going to happen in 2023. So I just want to say that. But before any decisions are made about a pool, we're going to look at the operating costs, because it's never been that we couldn't afford to build a pool. It was the operating costs for that pool. And at one time it was $400,000 a year for operating. That's an awful lot of money. So that's all I want to say. Thank you everybody for coming. I know I don't always say what you want to hear, but I try to say what you need to hear. I'm outspoken. I've been a great representative to Pitt Meadows. Thank you, and vote for Gwen O'Connell. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we owe our candidates a round of applause. Thank you so much for your input, and thank you everyone for bearing this extremely hot room. I hope you have a great night and safe travels home, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.